Welcome to chapter freaking 50! It's freaking great. There are 19 chapters left for the time being. The story is still incomplete, so I'm wondering how it's gonna continue and how it's gonna end. God, but last time, the relationship that I wanted to start freaking started, and I was so hype about it, and apparently somebody was complaining in the comments about she technically raped him. But at the same time, I'm just like, he just let him do that. Because Max needs to figure out how he's going to return the affection back to Twilight. Because he doesn't know how to do that. I don't know how he doesn't know that. But it's something Max needs to start learning. Because he agreed and gave it a chance. So Max needs to be a stallion to Twilight. Yeah, he needs to be a stud to Twilight. Like a gentleman, a gentle stallion. I don't know how to say this. But this chapter is called Troubled Waters, which worries me a bit. But anyways, I think we start with Max waking up. This is one thing, like, every time I open up a chapter, I read, like, the first sentence, I'm just like, alright, I'm already so hyped about it, gotta read it. Anyways, let's hop right into chapter 50. I slowly drifted back into the world of the living with a groan. My body was stiff, I was naked in bed, and it took my brain a few seconds to remember the reason why. As the memories of what happened last night came trickling back, I groaned again before rolling over onto my stomach. It was too early to count me among the living. I'd deal with all of that in a few hours. Snuggling into the sheets, I tried to go back to sleep. I was only lying there for a few minutes when my body made it clear that I had to pee now. With an annoyed grunt, I pushed myself into a seated position, causing the sheets to fall off me. Cracking my eye open, I glanced around the room. The curtain to the balcony were open a crack. The morning sun streaming through, giving off enough light to see by. My shirt and pants were tossed haphazardly onto a couch, probably by Twilight's magic last night. Speaking of which, Twilight wasn't in the room. Her spot in the bed was empty. A few feathers, only indication that she had been there. The bathroom door was open, and there was no light coming from it, so she wasn't in there. Looking at the door to the hall, I noticed that it appeared to be unlocked. Twilight had apparently already gotten up and left before I had woken up. A frown touched my face, and I huffed softly. I had been hoping that she would still be here so that we could have a talk about what had happened last night. I'd have to catch her later. Maybe after I found Celestia and got her to explain this heat thing a little better. I might not understand it that well, but there was a huge difference between when Applejack was in heat and when Twilight was. Mainly, Twilight appeared more rapey and seemed to have a split personality. Hopefully, Celestia will be able to clear up any and all confusion. I had been serious when I told Twilight that I was willing to give this relationship a try, but if that's how she was going to act, I was bailing now. While I hadn't minded what happened last night, I wasn't going to put up with that for an extended period of time. Okay, that's understandable, Max, but fuck. Like, if you're gonna bail now, she's gonna be so sad. Like sad when she was on the train. Like, don't bail when you haven't really tried that much. You just let her satisfy herself, and that's what you're gonna act like about it. My bladder twitched again, reminding me of why I wasn't going back to sleep at the moment. Crawling to the edge of the mattress, I forced myself off of the comfortable bed. I started to shuffle towards the bathroom, but paused when I felt a weird sensation in my crotch. Confused, I glanced down and, oh, that's just nasty. Grimacing, I looked away from the horrific aftermath. I can't believe I slept like this. I'm definitely gonna need to take a shower, and the maids are probably going to have to burn the sheets, and the blankets, and the mattress. Entering the bathroom, I proceeded to do my business, all while trying not to touch too much of the mess below. Once I was finished, I immediately turned on the shower and hopped in. As soon as the warm water washed over my body, I let out a shaky sigh and closed my eyes. I just stood there for a few minutes, enjoying the sensation before actually beginning to wash. I left the mask below for last, focusing instead on the rest of my body as I washed my hair. I pulled on it, studying its length. I was once again getting on the long side, and I made a mental note to talk to Rarity about a haircut. Wait, Rarity's the one that gives you a haircut? Excuse me, what? Okay, it took me about 20 minutes to finish showering, drying myself off. I stepped out of the bathroom and glanced around. Twilight hadn't returned while I was in the shower, which meant she was still out and about doing whatever. As I walked by the bed, I paused before reaching down and picking up most of Twilight's feathers, straightening them up, and I placed them down on the bedside table for later. What are you gonna do with the feathers? Question. That's a question I need to answer, Max. What are you gonna do with the feathers? Now that I was up, showered, and awake, I figured I should probably go find something to eat before looking for Twilight. My stomach growled softly, agreeing with my decision. Picking up my clothes, I got dressed and exited the room. Making sure the door was closed, I turned, only to blink in surprise when I saw a guard standing on the opposite side of the hall. She was watching me intently, her red eyes unblinking. Decked out in night guard armor, her horn was poking out of a hole in her helmet. She had a red eye as a cutie mark, but bat-like wings protruding from the sides of it. I also saw two fangs peeking out from behind her lips. Her nostrils flared, and her pupils seemed to shrink before returning to normal. Is she in heat? Like, this whole... Okay, Max, you're in Canterlot because Celestia asked you to, but there's still heat week happening, so you better be careful, my boy. Better be careful. Her pupils seemed to shrink before returning to normal. What does that mean? That last sentence is messing me up. We stared at one another for several seconds before I slowly raised an eyebrow. Are you heading to breakfast? She asked, her voice surprisingly light. It had a kind of ring to it, almost like silver bells. I am to escort you to the dining hall, Princess Celestia's orders. My brow furrowed and I hissed softly. I knew my way to the dining room. I didn't need an escort. Seeming to pick up on my annoyance, the guard shook her head. I'm just to escort you to the dining hall, nothing more. A Griffin dignitary arrived late last night to talk with Princess Luna, and we want to avoid unneeded complications. She'll be gone after breakfast, though, so I'll be out of your mane by then. Hanging my head, I said heavily before motioning for her to lead. Yeah, I forgot. Max is officially a citizen of Equestria now, which is dope. I'm glad that Celestia gave him that right. Hanging my head, I said heavily before motioning for her to lead. As we walked, she kept a little ways ahead of me at all times, breathing through her mouth. I watched her curiously, unsure what to think about this behavior. Every so often, she would glance back at me, double-checking that I was still following. It took us longer than usual to reach the dining room, as the guard kept taking me down side passages. At first, I was a little wary of this, but when we started to pass more and more guards, all of whom just nodded at my escort while giving me strange looks, I figured she was legit. Either that, or she was a damn good infiltrator. She was silent until we reached the dining room. Turning, she inclined her head, motioning towards the door. Her face was flushed slightly, and she was still breathing through her mouth. This is where I leave you, she said. When I nodded my thanks, she turned and walked off down the hall without another word. I watched her go until she turned the corner, before pushing open the dining room doors and entering. Alright. I'm guessing the girls are in the room. Dining room. I said room. Like, in the dining room. Let's see how this goes. Shoot. Like, every time I hit my mic, I'm like, you guys probably hear it, but I'm sorry every time. As the door swung shut behind me, I noticed there were already ponies sitting around the table. Celestia sat at the head of the table, her back to the door. I had just entered. Applejack and Rainbow Dash were sitting on one of the side of the table, while Fluttershy and Rarity were sitting on the other side. I assumed that they had come up with Twilight, and if that was indeed the case, then where was Pinky? Probably hiding, waiting to surprise the next person who sits down for breakfast. I mused to myself as I approached the table. Applejack looked up as I neared, a smile crossing her face. Well, good morning, Sugar Cube, she said as I sat down beside Fluttershy and picked up a piece of toast. How are ya? She froze, her eyes widening as her nostrils flared. Her cheeks instantly turned red, and she slapped her hooves over her muzzle, covering her nose. What happened? What do they smell? Something. Okay, so something. I'm guessing Twilight scent or musk is around Max right now, so that's what I'm guessing. The others' reactions were similar in nature. A large blush exploded across Rainbow's face, her wings flaring wide, nearly knocking Applejack over. Rarity spit out her drink, her face just as red. Fluttershy stiffened beside me, her wings flaring as well, and she looked like she was about to pass out. Even Celestia looked like someone had just slapped her, her eyes wide and a shocked look on her face. I cocked an eyebrow as I munched on my toast. Jeez, dude, Rainbow gagged, holding her hooves over her nose. So not cool. I realize you might still be mad about yesterday, but as far as payback goes, this is a low blow. Yeah, Max doesn't understand this whole thing, but Rarity knows. Well, at least we know why Twilight was so happy this morning, Rarity muttered, fanning her face with a napkin. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled that she's happy, but this was uncalled for. I gave them all a confused look. Sugar Cube, Applejack said, her voice sounding nasally as she kept a hoof over her nostrils. I'm hoping for you that you had a good time last night, but next time clean up afterwards, okay? Unless you're one of them stallions that likes to show off. Like, Max doesn't understand what's going on, so they smell Twilight, and they smell a mare's heat or something. I'm not sure. I need to put that on no noise. At my blink, look Rarity huffed. Darling, when a mare and a stallion do the deed, as it were, the stallion usually smells of the mare afterwards. We can smell Twilight on you, and that's putting it lightly. While some mares might find it flattering that a stallion is willing to walk around smelling like her, it tends to get other mares worked up, especially during estrus. My eyes widened in sudden understanding, and my cheeks reddened as I realized what they were implying. They could smell that Twilight and I had sex. Suddenly, the guard breathing out of her nose made so much more sense, as well as the strange looks on the other guards had been giving me. Face burning, I sunk low into my chair, trying to hide my embarrassment. That's the good option. You really should shower after. He did shower. This is the thing. He really did shower. He did. You really should shower afterwards instead of parading around with her scent all over you, Rarity said, giving me a strained smile. Her cheeks flushed slightly, my head jerked up, and I stared at her over the edge of the table, a look of uneasiness slowly crossing my face. This caused her smile to fade. You didn't shower already, did you? Wait, you didn't shower already, did you? She asked as if she couldn't believe what she was saying. When I nodded, her ears played back, her eyes widened in shock, a look that was mirrored by the others. By the Maker. Rarity breathed, her pupils at the size of pinpricks. If this is how strong it is after you took a shower, she trailed off, a shiver running down her spine. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. It's bad for Max. I'm not sure what. Like, Twilight's happy about doing the deed, but she felt so, sad afterwards because he forced him into it. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is so bad. What the freak? I was trying to look across Rainbow's face, and it took me a few seconds to realize that she was trying not to laugh. Leaning sideways, she whispered into Applejack's ear. I told her she was pent up, really pent up. This caused the corners of Applejack's lips to twitch upwards. Oh, shut up, Applejack. God damn. I watched him for several seconds before a shadow fell over me. I glanced up only to blink in surprise when I saw Celestia looming above me, an ominous look on her face. However, she wasn't looking at my face, but at my wrist. I chanced to glance down as well, but didn't notice anything amiss. What happened last night? She asked, her voice devoid of emotion. Oh, Twilight was rough. Real rough. Could say that, Celestia. Could say that. In that moment, I was more scared than when Twilight had held me down last night. Celestia's eyes held in an inner fire that seemed to blaze like 1,000 suns. I could feel my heart beginning to pound in my ears, my breath catching in my throat. With 4 simple words and a look, she was more intimidating than even the pack of manticores had been. I could now finally see manticores. I feel like I'm saying that right. Manticores. Had been. I could now finally see why Twilight had held this mare in such high regards. Swallowing thickly, I sighed. She was waiting in my room when I got back. We talked, discussing her feelings about me. Then we went to bed and, well, yeah. I motioned towards my body, indicating my scent. I didn't want to get into details. She already knew what had happened just by the smell. Her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. Did anything strange happen? I didn't get a chance to answer before the dining room doors suddenly swung open, causing everyone to glance over at them. After a few seconds, Twilight entered, practically skipped through the door with a smile on her face. Her eyes locked onto me, and the smile grew larger, her ears pricking up like a dog's. This is just adorable seeing Twilight happy. He's always cute. Oh, but goddamn. This is gonna be an awkward morning. Good morning, Max, she chirped as she pranced over. Good morning, every pony, she added in an afterthought. Upon noticing the other inhabitants of the room, her friends returned her greetings, their faces flushed. Lester just leaned back, eyeing Twilight closely as she walked around the side of the table, heading for me. I pulled out the chair next to me for her to sit down, but she surprised us all by ignoring it. Instead, she hopped into my lap, giving my cheek a quick kiss before snuggling down and making her comfortable. Lighting up her horn, she grabbed a piece of toast, slathered some jam on it, then proceeded to eat it happily. That's adorable. That's freaking adorable. The others just watched with bemused looks. Although Fluttershy had the hint of a smile on her face, Celestia observed her closely with a small frown. Not paying them any attention, Twilight finished off her toast before reaching for a second piece. Comfortable? I asked, having to wrap my arms around like a hug in order to sign. This got her to hum happily and snuggling into my embrace. I really want this in fan art form, to be honest. I just want to see this instead of my mind. Oh yes, very comfortable, she said with a nod, munching contentedly on her breakfast. Rainbow Dash placed a hoof over her mouth, trying to stifle her laughter again. Twilight gave her a confused look. What? She asked, swallowing the food in her mouth. What's so funny? Rarity, why would you? Don't ask, okay? If she's fine with it, I guess Max is fine with it. I think Max is fine with it. Pretty sure. Not sure. I'm trying to process this in my mind right now. Okay, this is Rarity. Are you sure you wouldn't like a chair instead, darling? Rarity asked, a small smirk on her face. Twilight immediately blushed and sunk lower into my lap, but she didn't move. She muttered something under her breath, her ears playing backwards. I'm sorry, dear. What was that? Rarity asked, leaning in, her smirk growing. Oh, I'm so freaking done with this. I love it. A chair isn't as warm, she said a little bit louder. I smirked at that, and beside me, Fluttershy giggled softly. Twilight pouted, glaring over her shoulder at me. I just gave her a smile before tightening my grip around her. I still wanted to talk with her about last night, but it could wait. Besides, she was surprisingly comfy. She's I'm not sure what I was gonna say. She's fluffy, she's furry, I don't know. Well, Celestia said suddenly, standing up from the table, the day has come, and several royal duties require my attention, so I best be off. Twilight, would you mind accompanying me for a minute? I have something I must talk to you about. No. No. Wait, this is what Twilight said this one? No thanks, I'm good, she said nervously. Oh, god damn it, she's like... Celestia paused halfway to the door and glanced over her shoulder at her. That wasn't a request, she said, pursing her lips. Please accompany me. It will only take a few minutes. Twilight looked back at me, a small frown crossing her face before she looked back at Celestia. But I already have plans I need to get to. I don't want to. She yelped in surprise as she was suddenly lifted off my lap by a golden aura. Celestia's horn was glowing as she levitated Twilight over to her side. Come along, Twilight, she said as she made her way to the door. This won't be a long talk. I want to know. Okay, now I want to know what they're going to talk about. I'm hoping we get to see her perspective. Twilight struggled for a second before falling limp in Celestia's magic. Just before the doors closed behind them, when she glanced back at me and shouted, I'll catch up with you later. Rarity stared at the closed doors, a bemused look on her face. That was unexpected, she said slowly. I'm not sure what just happened. You're telling me, Rainbow huffed, crossing her forelegs. I'm so confused, and Pinky's not even here at the moment. She sulked for a few seconds before a sly grin crossed her face. Leaning across the table, she looked at me. Hey, can you help me settle a bet? She asked. I blinked before shrugging my shoulders, motioning towards the door with her head. Rainbow asked, Is she a screamer? Oh, no. Fuck you, Rainbow. Rarity, who had just taken a sip of her drink, did another spit take. Fluttershy squeaked before hiding her face in her mane. Applejack's ears perked up, and she watched me closely out of the corner of her eyes, waiting for the answer. I shrugged again before making a writing motion with my hand. I had no means of communication with them at the moment. Sort of a game of charade. There was a rustle beside me, and I blinked in surprise as a piece of paper and a stick of charcoal was pushed in front of me. I glanced over at Fluttershy, who just gave me a shy smile. You left your bags at the library, she muttered, drawing a small circle on the table with her hoof. I know you keep your writing supplies there, so I brought some along. Ah, Fluttershy. Good. Your kindness showing. Smiling, I picked up the charcoal stick and began to write. It took me a few seconds, but when I was down, I held up the paper from Rainbow to read. I will neither confirm nor deny that, and I hardly think it's any concern of yours. Rainbow's ears dropped. I'm sorry, she began, but stopped and I quickly scratched out something else. However, I will say that it wasn't my ears that were hurting when I woke up this morning. Wait a minute. Wait, so are you implying that you were the one screaming? It's a question? A blush quickly crossed Rainbow's face, shaking her head. As she's shaking her head, she sat back in her chair and huffed. That means I owe Peaky 25 bits, she grumbled. Applejack coughed loudly and nudged her with a hoof. Rainbow sighed before pulling a small bag out of somewhere. She muttered under her breath before counting out the money and handing it to Applejack, who just smiled as she accepted the bits. Chuckling at their antics, I tapped the charcoal stick absentmindedly against the table. I paused, glancing over at Rarity before sketching out a new message. I slid it over to her, and she picked up the paper in her magic. I know that estrus is a time of increased hormones for females, but is it normal for them to become overly aggressive in searching for a mate? Oh yeah, because Celestia is talking to Twilight right now. Damn it. Not necessarily, she replied, her brow furrowed. Some mares tend to get more irritable sometimes. She really has to hire a substitute occasionally during estrus because she becomes too snippish with the foals, but I've never heard of a mare becoming too aggressive during their heat. Why? She asked, giving me the paper back. Does this have something to do with Twilight? I paused before I answered. Not really. Rarity noticed my hesitation, though, and her eyes narrowed. Darling, I was before adding a little more. She may have gone a little crazy and held me down with her magic. She did what? Rarity yanked the paper away with her magic, her eyes wide. I jumped, startled by her response. She read the note again, her mouth opening and closing. The others gathered around, reading the note over her shoulder. Fluttershy gasped softly, covering her mouth with her hooves. Rainbow scowled, crossing her forelegs. Wait, okay. What? Okay, something's wrong here. And she got mad at me for being assertive, she growled softly. Applejack nodded, but I remained quiet. Rarity glared down at the paper, her eyes narrowed. After what we discussed on the train, how dare she? She trailed off, scrunching up her face before glancing back at me. Are you telling me she held you down with her magic and marked you? Darling, no matter how bad a mare's heat is, no mare would ever rape a stallion. Reaching over, I grabbed the piece of paper out of her magic. She didn't rape me. She didn't rape me. I scribbled down before showing it to them. Did you agree to it? Applejack asked, cocking an eyebrow. Otherwise, that's rape. Excuse me, Applejack. I feel like you're not the one to talk here. Trying to, like, get me to freaking... Get Max... Not me. Sometimes I get into character here. Getting Max to freaking... You know. I snorted, glaring at her. You're one to talk. Need I remind you of what happened in your breeding barns? I don't remember agreeing to that, but you seemed rather adamant to get in my pants. Applejack reeled back, her eyes widening. Before lowering her gaze, she pulled her hat down over her eyes, a large blush on her face. Point taken, she muttered. And let's not forget Miss Want to Play here, I added, before pointing at Rainbow. She flinched, her ears pressing against the back of her head. Mares might be able to control themselves around stallions, but it appears humans are fair game. Okay. That might be the case, Max. Well, Rarity stammered, blinking. Her cheeks puffed out and her face turned red. After a few seconds, she exhaled explosively, hanging over her head. Alright, I suppose you have a point. Yes, humans are used by the majority of mares to cool themselves down during heat, because not only can they not get the mare pregnant, but you don't have to form an emotional bond with them. That shouldn't apply to you, however, as you are not a typical equestrian human. You have the ability to choose for yourself what happens. Be it saying no to over-eager mares. She gave Applejack and Rainbow a pointed look, or say yes to Twilight. He didn't say anything, he just let it happen. Like he gave her a chance. And he knew, she was in heat. And she was like, okay. But she was, really aggressive. However, you should still have a long talk with Twilight about holding you down with her magic, she continued. Not only could you not give consent verbally, you couldn't tell her to stop if you were uncomfortable with anything. If I wanted to. I just read the next sign. I could have stopped her if I wanted to. Yeah. First thing, Max, you should know about Twilight, she's the element of magic. So she technically has the most powerful magic, other than the other princesses. I highly doubt that, darling, Rarity snorted. It's almost impossible for non-unicorns to break free of a unicorn's magical grasp. When I just continued to smirk at her, her eyes narrowed. Fine, you think you can get out of a magical hold here? Her horn began to glow light blue, and a familiar tingle started to cover my body. What's gonna happen here? My mind is just processing and it just gets stumped sometimes. However, before she could pick me up, I reached out and grabbed her horn instantly. My hand went numb and the magic flowing around her horn ceased. She blinked in surprise, glancing up at her horn in confusion. Her brow furrowed and she strained as she tried to face her horn to work. All she managed to do was create a couple of bright sparks. After a few seconds, she stopped trying and pouted, her cheeks slightly flushed. Fine, you were right. Now, please let go of my horn. Okay. Yes. Celestia's perspective. Let's go. I don't know why we say it like that. So I see that you finally talked to Max about your feelings for him, Celestia said as she walked down the hall, her hoof guards clicking softly against the marble floors. Beside her, Twilight trotted, her ears played back nervously. The princess's voice didn't hold any negative emotions, but she still cringed inwardly as though she had done something wrong. Swallowing thickly, Twilight replied, yes, I did. Although I don't think I had much choice after what happened in Ponyville. Celestia nodded, a small smile touching her lips. Judging by the scent on him this morning, I'd say things went well, she said, giving Twilight a sideways glance. Her face went bright red, and her eyes widened in shock. She tucked her tail between her legs, silently wishing for the floor to open up and swallow her whole. I can't believe he didn't shower before heading down to breakfast, she whimpered, mortified. Oh, he did, Celestia replied. But it appears you left a lasting impression on him last night. Twilight stumbled, her entire face now red. Oh, come now, Sister chatted, laughing softly. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is perfectly natural and actually very sweet. Although you should probably get him to shower again. That smell was slightly overwhelming. Twilight nodded, flustered, and kept her gaze forward. This isn't happening. I am not having this conversation with the princess. Wait, I thought it was Twilight. Okay, this is Celestia's perspective, but we're Twilight now. I'm confused. Anyways, of course, Celestia spoke up. Oh, excuse me, I need a break from this. Of course, Celestia spoke up, stopping her out of her daze. That's not the reason I asked you to accompany me. Actually, I wanted to ask you a question. She stopped walking and turned to face Twilight. I noticed something interesting about Max this morning, other than his scent, that is, and I have to ask. Her gaze hardened, her smile disappearing. Why are there magical burns upon his wrists and neck? Twilight took a step back, her ears splaying back. What? There are very faint magical burns around his wrists and neck, Celestia repeated. They are caused by high concentrations of magic rubbing against the skin, such as when magic is used to restrain an individual normally. They are hidden by fur and disappear within a few hours. However, in creatures with very low magic, such as humans, it's more visible and tends to last longer. Oh, shoot. What's Twilight gonna say? Because Max literally just got done explaining this to Rarity and the girls, technically. So I'll ask again, why are there magical burns upon his skin? Lowering her head, Twilight swallowed, her mouth suddenly very dry. She could feel bile slowly beginning to raise in her throat. She fought to keep it down. There was no way to get out of this. One way or another, Celestia would find out. Best to bite the bit now and get it over with. Hopefully she wouldn't be too mad. Yeah, she was asking Max, but Max was like probably too shocked to say anything until you walked in. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath before proceeding to tell Celestia all of what happened last night. How she had waited in his room for him to return, the discussion and her tearful confession of her love. His acceptance and allowing her to sleep in bed with him. She had to pause to work up enough courage to continue after that point, but she managed, cheeks red with embarrassment and shame. She told the princess how she had awoken in the middle of the night and becoming completely consumed by Max's scent and her own feelings for him, had held him down and had her way with him. Celestia was silent through Twilight's whole tale, her face expressionless. That made it worse for Twilight. She wanted her to look angry or something. This neutral look was making her extremely nervous. When Twilight had finally finished speaking, Celestia sighed and shook her head. I am disappointed in you, Twilight. Twilight froze, her eyes widening. What? I would expect you to have a better self-control, Celestia said, her tone cool. We are not mindless animals, running any standing within reach. We evolved past that long ago. Even after her 1,000-year banishment, Luna was able to control herself around the guards during her delayed heat. Just because you were in heat doesn't give you the right to treat Max the way you did. Not only did you not stop to consider his own feelings on the matter, but you took all control. He had of the situation out of his hand. Okay, what? You took all control he had of the situation out of his hands. He is unable to talk, Twilight. By pinning his arms, you essentially made it impossible for him to tell you what he was feeling. What if he had been in pain? What if he wanted you to stop? How was he supposed to communicate with you? Tears slowly dripped down Twilight's face as she stared up at Celestia, her mouth agape. But I couldn't, he said. She tried to formulate words, but was unable to do so. It doesn't matter if he said it was okay with after the fact, said. You shouldn't have put him in that position to begin with. You're better than that. God damn, so let's give it a straight talking to. God. You're better than that, apparently. But you're the one who invited me here, Twilight cried, pointing a hoof at her. You told me that Max was in Canterlot and I needed to come here to talk with him. Yes. Okay, no. Talk with him. Talk with him, yes, not rape him, Celestia said. I had thought that you would have been smart enough to sleep in a different room if you were having troubles controlling yourself. I thought that he was being dramatic when he said you were acting crazed, but now I see that he might have been correct. I was going to sleep in a different room, but he stopped me, Twilight shouted, her voice cracking slightly. He wanted me to sleep in the same bed as him. He wanted me to be with him. Celestia cocked an eyebrow. Are you telling me that you have enough power to hold him down while aroused, but not enough to remove yourself from his hold? What the fuck? Twilight opened her mouth to respond, only to close it again. Swallowing thickly, she lowered her head, ears playing backwards. What? Is she punishing Twilight? What? What? Okay, did I just leave the sentence? Twilight opened her mouth to respond, only to close it again. Swallowing thickly, she lowered her head, ears flamed back. What you did is inexcusable, Celestia sighed, shaking her head. Turning, she began to walk off down the hall, again, leaving Twilight behind. I can see now that it was a mistake to call you here. I'll talk to Max about this later. But for now, it's probably best that you return to Ponyville for the remainder of Equestria. There will be... What stuff is happening here? What? What? I'm so confused. A surge of magic behind her caused us to inhale sharply. Lighting up her horn, she managed to erect a barrier around herself. Seconds before a wave of magic slammed into her, rosy energy washing over her golden shield. She staggered backwards at the force of the blast. Her barrier flickered but held. Her eyes widened in shock. That's Twilight's magic. Yeah, you got her angry, Celestia. So next time you say about her raping somebody, like she knew he raped him. She knew what she had done. Okay, but Max was alright with it. Whipping her head around, she shouted, "Twilight, what in the name of harmony do you think you're—" The words died on her lips as she stared at her former pupil stunned. Oh yeah, she's a princess, huh? Twilight was crouched low, her wings spread wide in a show of dominance. Her head was lowered, a snarl on her face as her horn glowed bright. However, it was her eyes that startled Celestia the most. The whites of her eyes were showing, her pupils were pinpricks. She had a feral look on her face as she glared daggers at Celestia. Taking a step back, Celestia unconsciously flared her wings as well. What is... Yeah, Twilight's a little bit mad about this. Speaking about troubled waters... What the heck? What are you doing? She asked, alarm clear in her voice. Twilight snorted loudly, her nostrils flaring as she pawed the floor with... Oh no, Twilight's being possessive. Twilight snorted loudly, her nostrils flaring as she pawed at the floor with a hoof. I see what you're trying to do. You thought... She growled, you thought you were being so clever, didn't you, princess? But I figured it out. You just want me gone so you can have Max to yourself. Sister wheeled back as if she had been slapped. What? What would you think that? I can see it now, Twilight continued, ignoring her. With me back in Ponyville, you would be able to fill his head with lies about how I abused him. You would be there for him, comfort him, and when the time was right, you would take him for yourself. She snorted loudly, taking a step forward. You're trying to take him from me. Excuse me? Okay, Twilight, this is when you're wrong. Okay, Twilight, you're just being possessive and crazy right now. Also, Celestial's the one that got you here to, like, express yourself and stuff. But, goddamn. I assure you, I'm not doing nothing of that sort. I'm trying to help you fix your relationship, Celestia said hurriedly. Raising a hoof in protective manner. What is going on? The relationship is fine. The relationship is fine. Max didn't really care, to be honest. I feel like if Max just said what happened last night, the conversation would still pop up. But fuck. Lies! Snarled Twilight. Sparks flaming from her horn. The ends of her mane and tail were beginning to smoke, and Celestia could feel the magical energy she was giving off. Twilight, please, you will not take my mate from me! Twilight shrieked. Suddenly, dashing forward, she leapt through the air, teeth bared, as she launched herself at the princess. Okay, so... This is bad. Twilight's just mad right now. Celestia's eyes widened, and reacting on instinct, she pushed a large amount of magic down her horn. A magical bubble formed around Twilight, trapping her in midair. Struggling to escape, she kicked the bubble back to no avail. She fired off several bursts of magic, only to have them be absorbed into the golden barriers. Breathing heavily, Celestia stared up at her, keeping her suspended in the air. Twilight continued to struggle, growling as she fought to escape the magical prison. He is mine, Celestia, she snarled, her eyes narrowing. He is mine. You will not take him away from me, no matter what. I won't allow it. I will burn Canterlot to the ground if I have to. I'm not sure why I went with the deep voice right there. Solar... Okay, is there a the? Okay, no. If I have to, goddammit. Possessive, my Twilight, possessive. Blocking out Twilight's words, Celestia narrowed her eyes. To any pony watching, it would have looked like the Solar Princess was glaring at her former student. However, this was not the case. She was studying Twilight closely, trying to find reason for her sudden madness. She noted that her eyes, despite holding unbridled fury, were also glazed over, her horn sparking randomly. The precious and control the young alicorn usually showed now missing. Are you telling me... Okay, first thing. Now I'm making up a theory. Are you telling me that... I'm guessing Max's chaotic magic somehow managed to go through the D into Twilight? Is that where this is going? This is where this is going? Because I feel like this is where this is going. Because she's not herself right now. So it says right here, the precision and control the younger Alicorn usually showed, now missing. Okay, it's understandable when she... Okay, now it's just... Oh, that's bad if the chaotic magic in Max got into Twilight, because harmonious and chaotic magic don't mix, especially when we take it back to the heartwarming Eve when Max turned into a Draconicus. Yeah, still processing this in my mind. Okay, pushing more magic down her horn, Celestia reached attentively towards the squirming form of Twilight, searching as the magic slowly washed over her body. Celestia's brow furrowed in confusion. Twilight's magic was in a state of turmoil, spiking and twisting in large bursts of power. She could feel her anger, her frustration, and her desperation. Rage rolled off her in fury waves as did fear. The sheer strength of these emotions was enough to cause Celestia discomfort. She didn't know why Twilight was feeling like this, but she would get to the bottom of it. You have to get rid of Max's chaotic energy. Chaotic magic. You have to find out how to do that. Because if Twilight wants him... And Max was okay with it. Max is okay with this. He's trying to make this thing work. But Celestia, you need to find a way to get out Max's chaotic magic before he starts affecting Twilight more than it does now. That's what I'm guessing this is going. Fighting back against the wall of anger, Celestia probed deeper into Twilight's core. She paused, her eyes widening slightly as she stumbled upon something. It was something that she had never encountered before, a long, thin strand of foreign magic. It was faint, barely noticeable even with her skills, but nonetheless still present. Latching onto it, Celestia slowly worked her way deeper, heading towards the source of this unknown magic. It's unknown? Oh, okay, so I'm guessing chaotic, or human in this case. Chaotic human magic and harmony magic got merged together. Okay. Yeah, this was crazy. This was breaking my mind. There was some initial resistance, as if the magic was trying to force her back, but she pushed doggedly on. As she neared the center, she found her way blocked by a mental barrier that, upon her attentive examination, proved to be relatively strong. Steadying herself, Celestia drove her magical probe deeper into Twilight's core, straining against the arcane barrier for a few seconds before it finally buckled and she burst through. Celestia rolled back in horror, nearly losing control of her spells. Chaos magic raged within Twilight's core like a hurricane, warping and corrupting her latent magic. It lashed out at her, causing her to flinch back. Yep, there's that chaotic magic. Where did this come from? Celestia thought. As the chaos magic pulsed with dark aura, Discord is imprisoned. The only other creature in Equestria that has any chaos magic at the moment is Rise Wedding, and she put 2 and 2 together. There we are, Celestia. You and me are on the same page right now, hopefully. Her gaze hardened and her eyes glaring. Drawing upon the massive reserve of magic within her sun, she pushed a large burst of magic down this connection. It slammed into the massive chaos magic wrapping around it and beginning to smother it. The chaotic mass fought back, struggling to win the upper hand. However, it wasn't very big yet, and Celestia's magic soon proved to be the stronger. With a final burst of magic, she purged the chaos magic from Twilight's system. Typos, man, they were annoying me, but I'd stop me to try to process this half the time. As Twilight's magic slowly began to return to normal, Celestia withdrew her probe, sighing heavily as the tension left her neck. She opened her eyes. From within the magical bubble, Twilight was still glaring at her, shouting, "There will not be a force on Equus that will be able to help you." She trailed off, her enraged expression slowly morphing into one of confusion, then shock before coming to rest on pure horror. Pure horror. Her wings fall limp to her sides, her hooves dangling in the air, the sparks around her horn die down, her magic fading. Oh no, she whimpers, her ears playing back. "I didn't, why did I attacked you? Oh, Celestia, what have I done?" Pupils shrinking, she opened her mouth, a shrill scream issuing forth. Striding forward slowly, Celestia eyed her sympathetically. "How are you feeling, my faithful student?" she asked, putting emphasis on faithful. Twilight just flinched at the word, lowering her head and whimpering fearfully. "I am so sorry," she mewed. I don't know what came over me. I just... Oh, Maker, there's no excuse for this. I'm a horrible pony." "It's alright, Twilight," Celestia murmured, lowering the bubble to the floor and releasing the trapped alicorn. "Alright," Twilight said, her voice becoming shrill as her breathing increased. "Alright, how can this be alright? I attacked you. Also, Celestia, I attacked Celestia." Don't say that. "You're not thinking clearly," Twilight, Celestia said, keeping her voice soft and warm. She could see that Twilight was close to having a panic attack, and she needed to keep her calm. There was foreign magic within you affecting your decisions. Yeah, this is bad. Foreign magic? Twilight stuttered, glancing up at her through her bangs. She was still tense, looking ready to bolt at a moment's notice. Celestia nodded. Yes, chaos magic. Twilight's eyes widened and she inhaled sharply. But that's impossible, she yelped. There was chaos magic in me, but chaos magic comes from Discord, doesn't it? And he's currently imprisoned in stone in the castle's garden. The only individual now how has any chaos and magic in them is Shifro. Okay. Typos, man. The only individual now that has any chaos magic in them is she feels her pupils shrinking. Is Max. Indeed, Celestia said, nodding sagely. It appears that your mate, as you so aptly put it, has been licking his latent chaos magic without realizing it. Once it was outside of his body, it probably looked for the nearest magical source and was probably absorbed into you, which seemed to be the reason for your aggressive behavior. Wait, Twilight said nervously, are you saying that Max is corrupting every pony he comes in contact with? I don't believe so, no, Celestia said, shaking her head. The amount of chaos magic I found within you was not that much. I highly doubt that your friends have been affected as well. Their latent magic should be able to correct itself over time. But then, why am I affected? Twilight asked, swallowing nervously. Seeing as Max spends the majority of his time around you, I have to assume that you have absorbed more than any pony else. He probably has got a huge burst last night due to your questionable amorous activity last night. I'm pretty sure that no other ponies are currently in danger from the chaos magic. However, that being said, the fact that this is happening is still a cause for concern. Twilight lowered her head, scuffing a hoof. So, does that mean that last night? I don't know. Celestia's eyes narrowed, her lips pursed. While the chaos magic may have been partially responsible for what happened, it still does not make it right. While I should not force you to return to Ponyville, I still strangely recommend that you get your own room. She emphasized each word with a stomp of her hoof. If there's any chance of this happening again, you must prevent it. You're not off the hook either. I will still be having a word with Max about this, as I wish to get his side of the story as well. She continued, her gaze becoming cold. Should this sort of thing happen again, or should I find out from Max that you did not have his full consent, there will be consequences. Dire consequences. I'm surprised Celestia's getting worked up about Max here. Like, I know, like, Twilight even freaked out. Like, after she technically inserted his D in her, Twilight freaked out about it, too. I'm surprised Celestia's worrying about this. Because technically, yeah, she's technically the one that wanted them to do this. Twilight gulped and lowered her gaze, but nodded her head in understanding. Swallowing thickly, she peeked up at Celestia through the bangs of her mane. What are we going to do about Max's chaos magic, even if it isn't really that dangerous now? That may change later. Celestia's cold gaze softened, and she gave her a small smile. You leave that to me. Okay. Max, you still need to take a shower, my boy. Everybody smells Twilight on you. I walked down the hallway, munching happily on an apple. I had pilfered from Applejack's plate when she wasn't looking. Breakfast had ended, and since Twilight hadn't come back to the dining hall, I decided to see if I could track her down. Rounding a corner, I had to sidestep a pair of guards walking in the other direction. One of them, a mare, inhaled, her nostrils flaring. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks, but she kept her face motionless. I gave her an apologetic look as she passed. Maybe I should go shower again before looking for Twilight. Diverting my original path, I started heading back to my room. I had a quick shower, then I would track down Twilight. Maybe she was back in the room already. That would make it so much easier, but I highly doubted it. Max, I'm pretty sure you need to bathe in tomato juice. Because I'm pretty sure that stinks like a skunk spraying you in the face. Climbing up the main staircase, I finished my apple before chucking it out near a nearby window into the gardens. I figured if some animal didn't find it, it could just decompose naturally, maybe even grow an apple tree. Whistling a happy little tune, I put my hands in my pockets and continued walking, a spring in my step. It took me a while to reach the correct floor with the amount of stairs in this place. Seriously, I might have to talk to Celestia about putting in elevators. Of course, when you can fly, elevators seem pretty useless, don't they? True. They are alicorns. Max, if you grow some wigs, you'll be a happy man. As I headed down the hall towards my room, I spied a pony walking in the opposite direction. She was a white Pegasus, her blue mane cropped, her tail was done up in a braid, the base of which was bound by a red ribbon. She had a no-nonsense look on her face, her yellow eyes glaring out at the world before her. Even though she was smaller than average in size, she had an air about her that reeked of authority. Giving her a wide berth, I moved to the side of the hall to pass, only to have her block my path. She glared up at me, her eyes narrowing. "You are Princess Twilight's human? Max, correct?" she asked, her voice surprisingly gruff for a mare. I nodded my head, eyeing her curiously. "I can understand hoof language, human," she grunted. Blinking at her sharpness, I just raised my hands. "Yes, I guess I'm technically Twilight's human, but only in name. Who are you?" "Only in name." "I am Tempest Barrage. I don't know. I am Tempest Barrage, Captain of the Guard," she said curtly, her tail flicking, her nostrils flicked suddenly, and she grimaced, her nose wriggling in disgust. She muttered something under her breath that sounded like an insult, but I couldn't make out the words. Starting, she shook her head before continuing. "I've been looking for you. This is a matter we must discuss that concerns several ponies that are currently under your command. First Lieutenant Avera Noctis of the Coming Dawn, Major Ebony Rose of the Battle Mages, and Primrose, Captain of the Lunar Guard." "What about them?" I asked, cocking an eyebrow. Did she want to ask how I liked them? Didn't Luna do that during the gala? Either way, my answer hadn't changed. They may be goofballs, but they were my goofballs. Plus, I enjoyed drinking with Primrose and Avera. Tempest's expression remained hardened, her gaze cold. "I'm hereby relieving them of active duty until such time as they have been deemed fit to actually do their duty." She didn't raise her voice, but her words hit me like a brick wall. My eyes widened and I inhaled sharply. "What?" I sighed, fumbling with the word. Tempest's face remained impassive, but her eyes narrowed dangerously. "They have proven that they are unable to complete the task originally assigned to them, so I am pulling them from Ponyville, removing them from your command, and relieving them of active duty until further notice. Further notice." Oh shit! The Twilight. Okay, it's Twilight or the other. It's Twilight or Celestia Luna have done this, or they came to. Now I'm sad. Like, it was like a bunch of confusion. Now I'm sad. You can't do that, I stand gaping at her. "Are you telling me how to do my job?" she growled at me, ruffling her wings. "I think you'll find I can, you see. When the princesses aren't present, I am in charge. I just said what happens with my guards, and those three are being pulled immediately. Immediately. For what reasons?" I asked, glaring at her. "They have done nothing wrong." Tempest's eyes widened at this, and her emotionless facade broke as she gave me an incredulous look. "Hey, they're my guards. Fuck you." They think our guards, guys, you know. "Done nothing wrong," she repeated, chuckling in disbelief. Reaching underneath her wing, she pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Okay, you want to play this game? We'll play this game, human." She unfolded the paper, giving a quick shake before glancing down at it. "Firstly," she said, reading the words upon the paper, "they were unable to do their job properly the first day of their deployment. Within a few minutes of arriving in Ponyville, they failed to protect you from a civilian by the name of Lyra Heartstrings." Her eyes flicked up to my face and she hissed loudly. I overlooked the little mess up only because it was the first day and they were hopefully still adjusting to a new station. "However," she said, her yellow eyes returning to the paper, "the list doesn't end there. There's also the gala in which they left you unattended, unguarded, which resulted in an abduction attempt by Prince Blueblood that was stopped by another noble, Duchess Scratch. Wait, she's a Duchess. Duchess Scratch. Marked that a noble had to do their job for them. Disgraceful. Then there was the incident with the infected human in Ponyville. Once again, they left you unattended, resulting in you getting bit by a human getting bit by an infected human with the black vine virus. The only reason you are still alive is because of your height and temperature. Had that not been the case, your carelessness would have cost you your life. There are also multiple counts of them putting you in dangerous or unnecessary situations, allowing you to illegally enter a human show and allowing you to enter the Everfree Forest days after being attacked by an infected human, just to list a few. Plus, there is their general attitude towards their assignment. She snorted. "Gambling, drinking, general laziness. This is not the type of behavior you would draw into our guards." She paused, glancing down back. "What? I'm sad. Are we losing them? Gambling, drinking, general laziness. This is not the type of behavior we draw into our guards." She paused, glancing back down at the paper. She studied it for a few seconds before her eyes light up in a mock surprise. "Oh," she glanced back up, her gaze becoming cold. "There's also the issue about them taking a bribe from a civilian," she growled, venom dripping from her words. My heart sunk in my chest as I realized what she was talking about. "Didn't think I'd found out about that one, did you?" she huffed as my eyes widened. "Oh yes, I know all about that little fuck-up, accepting money from a civilian to do a task that put their charge you in direct okay, what? Oh yes, I know all about that little fuck up. Accepting money from a civilian to do a task that put their charge you in direct danger. That was the final straw. They're lucky they're just getting relieved of duty and not being court-martialed for that little stunt. I could have them behind bars so fast that their heads would spin. This is going to be a disciplinary hearing, and I would be surprised if they get out of this without being discharged, let alone dropping a few ranks. For the people, she tucked it back under her wing. See, Max likes them. Max wants them to stay. Like, even if they don't do a good job protecting him, he doesn't really care. He loves them as much as, I guess, I don't know. Not Twilight, you say that. But close enough to that, like, he wants to... Shit, what the fuck was that noise? Fuck. Turned on my Bluetooth headset, whatever. I swallowed thickly, staring down at her in horror. Licking my lips, I sighed, is that all necessary? They were just following me around. Maybe we could... This is non-negotiable, Tempest growled, cutting me off. I didn't search all morning for you to tell you this just so you could try and weasel them out of their punishment. There is no apology, no second chance coming their way. They will be punished for this, and there is nothing you can do about it. Anomaly. They are my guards under my command. I will not allow them to disgrace their station any longer. They are being pulled from Ponyville, and new guards, ones that I have approved, will be taking their place upon your return. Okay, this is right. That's got emotional here. You can't take my friends away from me. They aren't meant to be your friends, Tempest barked. They are meant to be your guards. But that is final, she snarled. This conversation is over. You have seen the end of my patience. With that, she turned around and, flicking her tail at me, stalked off down the hall. Now I'm sad. We're losing the 3 guards. Fuck. I watched her go, my mouth hanging open and a stunned look on my face. My mind was trying to process what had just happened. I had just lost my guards, and from the sounds of it, they were in deep trouble as well. I have considered going after her, but thought better of it. From the look on her face, there was going to be no arguing with her, and as much as I hated to admit it, she was right. They were supposed to be my guards, not my friends. However, I still viewed them as friends, and it was my own stupidity that had just gotten my friends into trouble. I blundered blindly into things without thinking them through. More often than not, ended up injured. I went along with Rainbow and Rarity. I didn't listen when Rarity told me to run from the infected human, and I was the one who decided to go into the Everfree for Fluttershy, and now others were paying for my rash decisions. Okay. What was I about to say? Now I feel bad for them, because Shining Armor brought this up in the Heartwarming Eve. I saw her thickly, staring down at the empty corridor. There had to be a way to get them out of this without getting in trouble. Maybe I could talk to Equestria about it and see if I couldn't convince her to override Tempest's decision. But first I had to find Twilight. I really needed a hug right now. Continuing down the hall, I headed towards my room. I had started there and searched the castle. If that didn't work, I'd just go and interrupt Equestria's decor. She wouldn't mind, right? It would give her a break from all those stuck-up nobles. Not sure. As I opened the door to my room, the sound of shuffling reached my ears. Glancing up, I saw Twilight was inside the room. She had a pillow in her magic, and I dimly noted that it was a pillow I slept on last night. Well, that was easy, I thought, as I closed the door behind me. As the door clicked shut, Twilight froze. She turned her head, her eyes widening in shock when she saw me. The pillow fell onto the floor as her magic flickered and died. She began, not looking me in the eye. Her wings ruffled nervously at her side, her ear twitching. Don't mind me, I was just grabbing some things before, moving rooms. Moving rooms, I asked? Princess Amos... Oh, I said that so wrong. Princess Ursa thought it was best if we stayed in separate rooms for the remainder of my heat, she muttered, scuffing a hoof against the floor. So why are you taking my pillow? I asked, motioning towards it. A large blush set across her face, and her ears folded against her head. Because it smells like you? She squeaked. I couldn't help but snort at that. A weak smile appearing on my face. Okay, I couldn't help but snort at that. A weak smile appearing on my face. It just caused Twilight's blush to deepen. Picking up the pillow, she hurried towards the door, talking quickly as she did so. Well, I'm just gonna go now. Hey, she yelped in surprise as I scooped her. Well, I'm gonna go now. Hey! She yelped in surprise as I scooped her up in my arms. Struggling as I carried her over to the bed, she cried. But Princess just said. I cut her off as I collapsed back on the bed, taking her with me. We ended up with her lying on my chest, my legs dangling off the side of the mattress. It didn't look like the maids had changed the sheets yet. I didn't really care though. According to the others, I had to take another shower anyways. I just laid there, staring up at the canopy of the bed. Twilight shifted on my stomach. I glanced down and saw that she had rolled so that we were stomach to stomach. She looked up at me, chewing on her bottom lip. About last night, she murmured, her ears playing back. I wasn't thinking clearly, and I'm sorry about everything. She was having trouble talking, almost like she was choking on the words. Her eyes were beginning to water, and she looked miserable. What I did was inexcusable, even for being in heat. Princess still found that I had some chaos magic in me that she believes came from you, and it may have been affecting my actions, but I still have to know, are you truly okay with what happened? You can be honest, I won't be mad. I just don't want you to be scared of me. Twilight. Chaos magic? I asked, keeping my arms around her. Really? Yes, Twilight murmured, nodding gently. It appears to have been building up for a while, and she believes it's there because we were hanging out so much. She managed to get rid of it, though, so I shouldn't act like that anymore. Are the others affected as well? I asked, worried. I didn't want other ponies of suffering because I was leaking bad magic. Leaking. Sounds so bad. Sounds so bad when it says leaking. Twilight shook her head. No, the amount that is being absorbed is so low that their natural magic is removing it. It's just because you and I are so close to each other most of the time. That's good, I sighed, breathing a sigh of relief. Though we'll have to see if we can do something about it. Cecia's looking into it, Twilight said softly, rubbing absentmindedly at my chest with a hoof. But that doesn't answer my question. I gave her a warm smile before leaning forward and giving her a small peck on the cheeks. It was quick, but she still flinched back, and her eyes went in shock. But how can you be so forgiving? She asked. I basically held you down and raped you. Because it's you, I sighed, still smiling. This just caused her ears to fold backwards. You keep saying that, she muttered. But what does it mean? If I was somebody else, it wouldn't be okay. Why am I so special? With a sigh, I grabbed her chin gently in my hands, lifting it until we were eye to eye. I rubbed her cheek tenderly before answering. Because you've given me so much, and I asked for so little in return. You gave me a place to live, food to eat, a warm place to sleep. You fret when I'm hurt or sick. You go out of your way to help me. She opened her mouth to speak, but I just continued signing. And it's true that if it was someone else that did that to me, I wouldn't forgive them as easily, if at all. What makes you special is that I know you, Twilight. You will never do anything to harm me intentionally. That still doesn't excuse me what I did, she said, frowning. Max, you don't seem to understand I raped you. And I already told you, I don't view it like that, I sighed, returning the frown. Yes, it was sudden. Yes, it was unexpected, but I don't regret it. I don't hate you for it. But in the end, it's for me to decide, I interrupted. You can keep beating yourself up over this, Twilight, but it won't change a thing. I told you I was willing to give you a chance, and I still am. I'm sure we've hit a slight snag, but as long as you don't hold me down again without permission beforehand, it'll be fine. As I told you before, Sparklebutt, you're stuck with me. It's cute. Tears were now rolling down Twilight's cheeks as she looked down at me as though she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Slowly, almost tentatively, like she was afraid I might disappear, she leaned down. She hesitated, her eyes flicking to mine, before she gently pressed her lips against mine. It was a chaste kiss, almost as if she was afraid to do anything. I returned the kiss, and she hummed softly. It was a weird sensation, honestly. Her lips had a thin layer of fur upon them, but it was extremely soft. I could feel it tickling my lips and face as we kissed. Also, with her muzzle, she had to angle her head slightly to avoid mashing our noses together. After a few seconds, she pulled back, giving me a weak smile. I'm still going to make this up to you, she said, rubbing her eyes with the back of a hoof. The stomach took that moment to growl softly, causing both of us to glance at it. You're already hungry again? Twilight asked incredulously. Hey, don't blame me, I sighed. After last night, I need more energy. Twilight blushed again, but kept her smile. Well, how about I'll go find a different room while you take another shower, she said. Get my scent off of you. Her blush darkened until I thought she was going to pass out. And then we'll go find you some lunch, okay? I nodded, and she jumped down off of me and onto the floor, snatching up my pillow. She trotted towards the door. I pushed myself off the bed and followed after her. She opened the door and paused, glancing back at me in confusion. There's a bathroom over there, she said, pointing towards the bathroom. I nodded, but I didn't move. Where are you going? I'm following you, I sighed. You said that you were going to find a different room, right? Yeah, for me, she said. This is your room. I'm finding a different one. Princess Estia wants us to sleep in different rooms. I snorted, shaking my head. My room is your room. But Princess Celestia doesn't have the right to decide what we do in this relationship, I signed. I told you, Sparky, you're stuck with me. Oh, shit. Max is like, Let's go. Twilight stared up at me, her mouth agape, bottom lip trembling. The pillow tumbled to the ground again as her magic ceased. She stuttered, unsure what to say. There was a brief moment of silence as we just stared at each other. Then I fell backwards with a yelp as Twilight wrapped her legs around my chest and I proceeded to crush the air from my lung. Then I fell backwards with a yelp as Twilight wrapped her legs around my chest and proceeded to crush the air from my lungs. Back to Celestia. Alright, Celestia. Let's see what's going to happen here. It was late in the evening when Celestia knocked on Luna's bedroom door. She couldn't help the small smile that crossed her face when the sound of muffled grumbles reached her ears. Luna might have been the princess of the night, but she wasn't an evening person. Luna, are you up yet? You need to raise the moon in a few minutes. She was met with another groan before the door swung open. Luna stood in the doorway, her ethereal mane slightly disheveled. She blinked owlishly at her sister before smiling softly. Evening, Tia, she hummed, stifling a yawn. Good evening, Lulu, says the girl, nuzzling her sister. Did you sleep well? Reasonably, Luna said, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. She stepped out into the hall, closing her bedroom door. Behind her, the sisters walked off down the corridor, heading for the balcony to the gardens. Did anything happen when we were asleep? Luna asked as they walked. Celestia's smile faded, but didn't disappear entirely. Some complications between Twilight and Max, but nothing that I can't handle, sister. Really? Luna asked, picking up. Pray tell, what kind of complications? Nothing to trouble yourself about, Lulu, sister answered. I just need to talk with Max and get it sorted out. She paused, frowning in thought. She hadn't seen Max since breakfast. Of course, with decor, she hadn't much time to look. According to the kitchen staff, he had visited the kitchen in the afternoon with Twilight, but no one had seen them since. She wasn't that concerned, though. With all the guards roaming the castle, she doubted that anything bad would happen. Besides, she could just talk to him when she picked him up tomorrow for his appointment. Speaking of which, appointment? Question mark? What? Excuse me? Appointment? Speaking of which, excuse me, Celestia. What? Did you just get a checkup for no reason? Luna, Celestia said, glancing sideways at her sister. Can I ask a favor of you? Of course, sister, Luna said, giving her a warm smile. What is it you need? If you could make sure Max sleeps soundly tonight, he needs to be well rested. But of course, Luna said, blinking. But if we may, why must he be rested for tomorrow? Because, Celestia replied, her smile turning into a smirk, he's got an appointment with the doctor. And then the question is, who's the doctor? Also another question, if this is the doctor, I'm gonna be mad. Crossovers and shit, man. Okay, Archmage, I hate reading your freaking passages, but let's go. What the fuck is the first word? Stalactites rattled above in the cavern as the Archmage slammed the iron door in a rage, the resulting boom echoing around the caves, magnifying the sound. Unicorns glanced up in confusion, only to return to what they were doing when they saw who it was. Stalking forward, the Archmage snorted loudly, steam practically billowing from his nostrils. The vein in his head pulsed, and he could feel a massive headache coming on. Upon seeing his expression, several of the unicorns quickly got out of his way, skirting around to the edges of the cavern and watching from a safe distance. The Archmage was pissed, and even though they were hardened criminals, no pony wanted to get in the older unicorn's way. Heading towards the far end of the cavern and the massive steel doors embedded there, the Archmage growled loudly. Of all the damnable things, of all the goddamn fucking things that could have happened, he had to show up here, snorting again. His horn flashed, and a nearby stalagmite exploded in a shower of rock. He's not supposed to be here. He's supposed to be back in Ponyville. Why the fuck? He's talking about Max. Another flash and 3 more rock structures exploded. Is he here? Because Celestia asked him to stay. Also, he's a princess's pet, so he has reasons to be here. He ground to a halt, digging his forehoof into the rock beneath him. The stupid bungler is going to screw everything up, and it's going to be an accident. I swear, not only that, he brought the fucking elements of harmony with him. He growled, his tail lashing at the air. They aren't the real issue, though. If things go according to plan, the elements of harmony won't matter. But that goddamn human! The Archmage's eyes flashed bright yellow, and the ceiling above exploded in a shower of rock and dust. Unicorn scrambled to get out of the way as the cavern shook with the Archmage's rage. So yeah, Max. Talking about Max. And the elements are his friends, so shut the fuck up. He ignored them all, continuing to seethe. Centuries of planning, years of preparations, months of careful planning, weeks of precise movements, and this bastard is going to ruin everything. He muttered under his breath, I swear this floater is the worst mistake I've ever made. So you were the one that I brought him. Okay, that's good to know. Staring at the ground in front of him, the Archmage massaged his temples with a hoof. Slowly, as lifted his head, his gaze hardening. Dark Spice, he's growled, gritting his teeth. There was a second pause before a unicorn materialized beside him. A black cow hiding his face from you. Yes, the unicorn hissed. Do you know Princess Sparkle's human? He asked, glaring at Dark Spice. When the stallion nodded, he continued. I have a job for you, and I need 2 of your best members to do it. What's the job? Dark Spice asked, tilting his head to the side. He has overstayed his welcome, the Archmage huffed. Kill him! Oh, you're about to mess with something you shouldn't be messing with, Archmage. And I'm hoping Max doesn't have his fucking guards with him. Fuck! God damn it! Ebony, like seriously, Ebony is probably like the only one that can get his Big Daddy armor on him. This is what pisses me off. They got fucking punished for some bullshit Max agreed to, because it's all Max. Max was in charge of them. So fuck. I feel bad for them, but Max should feel bad too. Fuck. Dark Spice nodded once before disappearing silently back into the gloom. The Archmage stood there, massaging his temples, slowly regaining his composure. He ran a hoof through his mane, straightening it. Taking a deep breath, he trotted forwards, heading towards the large steel door at the end of the cavern. As he approached, his horn lit up as the sound of grinding gears reverberated through the cavern as the door began to swing open. When it had opened far enough, he slipped through the gape, the door closing behind him with a resounding clank. He was instantly plunged into darkness, and he was forced to light up his horn to be able to see. The sickly yellow light from his horn illuminated his surroundings, and he found himself in a long, thin metal corridor. Wires ran along the ceiling, twisting and turning around themselves as they jumped from glass fixtures that dotted the ceiling. Taking a deep breath, the Archmage moved forward, trotting slowly down the hallway. His heels clicked loudly against the metal floors, echoing around the small corridor. He passed several store doors, all of them buckled and unable to be opened. Eventually, the corridor gave way to a large room. Metal desks were scattered everywhere, and a thick layer of dust covered everything. Bookshelves ran along the far wall, their contents aged to the point of crumbling. Several strange devices were smashed upon the ground, their wires and gears scattered everywhere. Broken glass littered the floor, most of it pulverized to dust. Above, several catwalks spanned the length of the room, leading to doors that led into darkness. A large tattered piece of cloth dangled from the ceiling. The blue and red nearly completely faded to match the white. From his spot at one of the desks, Darkflare glanced up at the Archmage as the Archmage entered. Rose and Pearl sat beside him, the trio watching as he crossed the room, not paying them any attention. He headed towards one of the side entrances, the door of which was lying collapsed on the floor, stepping over the discarded door. He moved into the adjacent room. Hoarding cells lined the walls, each one blocked off by security bars that looked rusted and old. The sound of his footsteps echoed around the room as he moved towards the last cell. As he reached it, he pushed more magic down his horn, illuminating the inhabitant of the cell. Melodic wind was strewn out upon the ground, her body limp, her coat was patchy and covered in a layer of grime and dust, her ribs clearly visible. Scabbed over her cuts marred her flesh, some of them still oozing blood. One of her eyes was swollen shut, the skin around it bruised. Chains bound her ankles, shackling her to the wall. Her large wings were now bare, stripped of her once gorgeous feathers. Dried blood caked the naked appendage, coating her fur and flesh. As Archmage stopped in front of her cell, she cracked open an eye, glancing early up at him. It took her a few seconds to register what she was seeing, but when she did, she sneered. Staring at her with a blank expression, the Archmage slowly cocked his head to the side. His horn flashed once, and a ball of sickly green flames burst into life in front of him. Malik's eyes were instantly drawn to the flame. As she stared at it, though in a trance, her eye flowing as it drifted back and forth through the air. Crouching down, the Archmage glared at her, his eyes narrowing. Let's go over this one more time. The end. Okay, why is she, like, what information does she have that the Archmage wants? Because Darkflare literally just grabbed her because he hates fucking Pegasus, and she's fucking in terrible condition right now, and I feel so bad for her. God damn. This chapter got me confused, sad, and fucking mad at the end. Because every time I read an Archmage fucking perspective, I'm just fucking upset. Now they're gonna go fucking kill Max. I'm fucking upset. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, listening. Do like you guys do, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
100,000 stories have filled my head as I look for the answer in what I've read.